This is WarCry. WarCry for our children. Where the street meets the sanctuary and purpose meets power. Join me, Elder M, intercessor, street evangelist, prayer warrior, advocator for justice. We stand in the gap in the streets, in the courtyards, in the schoolyards, in the church and on the block. This ain't just prayer. It's intercession. It's advocacy. We deal with real problems. Criminal justice, social justice, gun violence, social media, catfishing, human trafficking, mental illness, education disparities. We deal with it all here on WarCry. Our community has a voice. It's called WarCry. Each week, we link arms with community leaders, educators, pastors, parents calling out injustice. This is WarCry. This is not just a podcast. It's more than a moment. This is a movement. Join us. Let's give a voice to the problem and be the solution. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep them going. WarCry. We're going to speak out for our children. Let freedom ring? No. There cannot be freedom until there's justice. WarCry, join us Mondays, 11 a.m. I'm just about to lose my mind. This is WarCry. Oh, they're trying to turn time back. But let us get out and give a voice to the problem. This is WarCry. Join us, be with us, or be gone. Don't push us. This is WarCry. Trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. We're not going under. This is WarCry. This is WarCry. Welcome, family, to a great opportunity to join into a wonderful show. This is WarCry for the urban communities. Yes, I specified urban communities because no one cares about what's going on in the valley. But the valley still must have a voice. And I thank God for WarCry. WarCry is the voice of justice, the voice for our children, the voice for senior abuse. This is WarCry. Now, you can join and be an active member of WarCry by just hitting the subscribe button. I mean, you subscribe to so many other things. So why don't you subscribe to WarCry for our children, WarCry for justice? Remember, one day you may need a WarCry. WarCry against the devil. I heard a preacher preach that. This is WarCry. You can hit us up on our Gmail, warcry.children@gmail.com, and let us know what you think about us, or get in contact with us and subscribe to us. Go on our website. We have warriors out there wearing shirts to say, I am praying for our children. They are picking school districts and standing on the outside praying. Don't you want to be a WarCry volunteer, a WarCry investigator, a WarCry warrior? This is WarCry. Or are you scared? Well, let me tell you something. If you're scared, then this is not the channel for you. Go hit the reality shows and look at the unrealities of the reality, because this is WarCry, and we're going to get the information out there to you, whether you like it or not. It's time for the Valley to have a voice. Join us. I mean, you spend more on Beyonce concerts than you would ever spend on helping us. And you know what? Some of you like Beyonce. Hey, if she was giving money to WarCry, maybe she would be on my hashtag list. But this is WarCry. The Bible tells us, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppressions, coming from Isaiah 1:17. Are we doing that? Are we really doing that? Black on black crime now is just out of hand. I mean, come on, human trafficking is out of hand. I mean,
identities of our young people are out of hand. I mean, the penal systems out of hand. This is WarCry, and we're going to bring the hard facts to you. And you need to subscribe and be a part of this. Be a part of something, even if you don't belong to the NAACP, the Urban League, or National at Work, which you all should be a part of. Be a part of WarCry. It will make you feel better. It's a generational thing because we're going to bring the hard truth to you. This is war cry for Jesus. Now, will that move you? War cry for Jesus. What would Jesus do? Would he sit back and not do anything? This is war cry. Bring my host on today. We have another exciting show. Oh, man, I can't believe it. I am so happy about what we're going to be doing today. I mean, I don't bring scared people on war cry. I'm sorry. So if you're scared, then move aside. But if you need us, then we are going to be here for you. War cry. Now, this is Dr. O. He's a personal friend of mine, and I want to tell you something. He ain't scared. If you want somebody scared, please don't invite Dr. O on, because Dr. O is going to come on. He's going to shake up. He's going to move, and he's going to tell you some things that's going to move you from one place to the next place. So if that's what you need, then please invite him on your show. I don't have to do a commercial for him. He's a living commercial within himself, and he's on War Cry. Now, let's just talk about this, Dr. O. Good morning. Good morning. When we say justice, what does justice really mean?
Wow, that's a very heavy question. So it's Micah, I think it was Micah says, do good and walk in the way of the Lord and be at peace. I'm paraphrasing. And I think justice is submitting to God. Submitting to God.
Justice is submitting God.
Submitting to God and doing the work in which your soul has been charged. Doing the work in which your soul has been charged. And the only way we can know what that work is that we have to be still. We have to be still and let God give us that inspiration. God gives us these messages in our hearts, and that which inspires us. A political prisoner, his name was Richard Mafundi Lake. He said that the oppressor screams for law and order, and the oppressed screams for justice.
Very interesting statement. I've heard a statement also that says, how can we think that the oppressor can give us justice? How can we think that those that have enslaved us for years give us justice? Their definition of justice really means just us, just them. It doesn't mean just us for us. How can those that lynched us on the tree give us justice or understand what we're really fighting for? How could the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Zealots understand the message of Jesus when they didn't have the heart of Jesus? So we can even look at it from that perspective. Just us. What does it mean? Does it mean fairity? That when we look at the hands, the bars on justice, the weight on justice, do we see them actually being equal, or do we see one up and one down? Just us. I think Al Sharpton puts it like this: no justice, no peace. And we haven't got justice, and guess what? We shouldn't have any peace. It's time for us to come out of our boxes and do this. And do what? Game over. Game over. Time to take a break and get it right. We're losing. The team needs to huddle, and we need to get it right. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to huddle and get it right. And the second half, we're going to play better. And I'm not talking about the Knicks. I'm talking about justice. Dr. O, go ahead, introduce yourself, and we are ready to go.
Dr. Onaje Muid, Baba J, Dr. Onaje Muid, son of Sylvia Oliver and Thomas Oliver, born to a working class family, and God has given me a pathway to not get caught up in all of the traps that have been put inside of our communities. And Dr. Martin Luther King said that Black people are living in domestic colonies. You never heard that speech, have you?
No.
You haven't heard that speech. So I have been given the charge of healing my people, or being a contributor to the process of healing our people. And as a social worker, and particularly as a Black social worker, you know, we say that we have the obligation to defend the Black community and to call out any of atrocities or acts of aggression against the community. So therefore, we say this is social welfare. How do you create a society in which a people can be healthy, can be well? So I've been a social worker for over 40 years, holding a master's degree and a doctorate degree in social work. I teach a course at LaGuardia Community College, Urban Black Psychology, and I love teaching that course. And I was laughing the other day is because I was like, wait a minute, I'm old enough to be your grandfather. All these kids, 21 and 22, it just hit me like I'm speaking to people 50 years, right? I'm 50 years older than them, and it's amazing to be in that space. So that's a little bit about me. I am the co-chair of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, of their Health Commission, and also the co-chair of the National Association of Black Social Workers, National Relations Committee. So that's a little bit about.
Now, that's. Oh, let me ask you a problem. Let me ask you a question that has always stayed in the back of my mind. How can, now I understand that we can do this on experience, we can do this based on data, but really, I'm removing all of that. How can a white social worker understand a Black person's problem? Now, I understand the experience, the drama, the experience, the data, looking at various situations, and then making a prediction based upon me coming in there. But how can somebody that's not my skin color understand the Black things that I experience every day and give me a recommendation about it? How is that? How do that work?
I'm going to answer that question by giving the answer to that question that Toni Morrison gave to Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose asked a similar kind of question, and what she said was, you need to understand yourself and why white people have done what they've done, and if you feel that you have to put people on their knees so that you can feel big, then you have a problem. You have a serious problem. You have a very serious problem, and you have to solve that yourself. So it's getting white people to understand that they have, like ourselves, been caught up into this social construction that's called race, and you therefore have a race. It's called white. What does that mean? And if we take away all the things that all the other people, the things that you've stole from people, the things that people have contributed to your so-called civilization, we take all those things away from you, what's left? You got to figure that out. That's my answer.
Now, another question before we get to the presentation is, why are we so disconnected? I mean, when we look at Brazil has more Blacks there than we have in the United States, but we don't feel a connection. We know that there's Black Russians, there's Black Chinese, but it seems like we don't feel a connection. We don't even sometimes feel a connection to our sisters and brothers on the islands, the East Islands, the West Islands. We're so disfranchised. We don't even feel a connection to Haiti or what's going on there. Why is that?
Dr. Franz Fanon, a psychiatrist, um, gave us a window into what is called the colonized mind. We have to remember for over 400 years, we've been under tyranny, not just physical tyranny, but mental tyranny as well. And in that tyranny, we have lost ourselves, lost our souls. And everything we do, for the most part, is geared towards a European standard, a European set of what's beautiful, what's right, what's wrong. So when the colonized mind takes on the thinking of the colonizer, they actually do those same things. So the war that was waged against us, we lost the military war. That's why we're here physically. But we also lost the cultural war in terms of, remember from Roots when Toby when Kunta Kinte said, "What's your name?" Kunta Kinte. What's your name? Kunta. What's your name? He beat that man mercilessly till he finally said, "Toby." That was the superposition in terms of superimposing one's cultural framework, right? They took our language, took our gods, they took everything away from us. So it's not surprising that we do what we do. But the thing to remember is that there's always been a resistance to that oppression. There's always been a resistance. And now we're finding out there was hundreds of so-called slave revolts, right? So there's a whole history that we're denied that we have to go back and research. And we have to look at the work of Dr. Ben and Dr. John Henry Clark. We have to look at the work of George Jackson. We have to, John Jackson, but also I said George Jackson. So we have to always uphold the resistance that our people gave, and still is happening today.
Okay, Dr. Eric is on. Dr. Eric Gorday, I see he was on. He just went off, and he'll be back on. We're glad that he's joining us today. Now let's just go on a little farther. You made a video called "No More Bullets" or "The Last Bullet."
Yes. Yes.
The Last Bullet. When I heard that, the last bullet, I really, really, really felt the pain. Here we go.
The Last Bullet Now campaign.
Mm.
Is it really safe to go out and play today, Daddy? Yes, son, today was the last bullet fired. Mommy, can I go out and play jump rope with my cousin? Yes, dear, you can jump rope today. The leading cause of death for black youth between 15 and 34 is gun violence. Black men are 7% of the United States population, yet account for 52% of all gun homicide victims. President Biden declared gun violence a public health epidemic. It is time for us to do our part. Let us work together so we can say the last bullet was fired today. The Wahimi Misu Healing Well nonprofit has launched the Last Bullet campaign to advocate for a peace dividend to put down guns in urban communities. But we need your help. We need your investment of time and talent to spread the word. The Last Bullet movement has begun to amplify the peace and settle the beef. Join us. Make your pledge today for the last bullet. Let us affirm peace is on the way. Make it safe for our children to play.
The last bullet. What made you really come up with this, and how did you come up with this? When I first listened to this, I was like, the last bullet, so our kids can play in safety. The last bullet, so premature deaths would not be at an all high. That a 4-year-old walking down the street wouldn't get shot. The last bullet. Is this even a reality that we can think that in our communities that we would not have the highest percentage of gun violence? Is this a real reality, Dr. O?
God's will, it shall be a reality. But I would want to respond by saying so many of our people who were enslaved never thought that chattel slavery would end. They just couldn't see an end to it. Yet our ancestors Some of them knew. And therefore, we are the manifestation of our ancestors' prayers. We are the manifestation of our ancestors' prayers and also their pain and suffering. So in the same way that some of us felt that we weren't going to get out of chattel slavery, actually we have. Now, even though they shifted the slavery by creating Article 13 that says slavery and involuntary servitude is abolished except in the case of a punishment of a crime. So they created all these laws that then became criminal, and therefore we put right back into on the plantation again. And we went right into convict leasing. We went into sharecropper system. We went into peanut system. We went into the mass incarceration system. So slavery has just taken different forms, but always with the same intent. That is subordination and exploitation. So
Dr. Gordell, you're on. Would you like to say good morning to the listeners?
Yes, good morning. I've had a very difficult time trying to get on. Hello, doctor. I've been listening to most of the conversations. I do have some strong feelings about what you're saying, and I do agree on some and not on others. And then I have questions. I have just finished reading a book by the name of My Grandmother's Hands by Rasmus Menachem. Are you familiar with that book? Hello?
I said I'm very familiar with it.
Oh, good. I didn't hear you. My humble apologies.
Yeah.
You know, so I've read quite a few issues or addressed several issues in racial justice, racial trauma, and social justice. And I'm an advocate of that position. It seems to me that we are directing our energies in the wrong direction. This book kind of addresses it, but the problem is not us. The problem is cognitive dissonance. The cognitive is denial and what is going on with the people who are the perpetrators. We're not the perpetrators, we're the victims. And as a victim, I'm saying, wait a minute, why are you blaming me when you're the one that's doing all of the atrocities? I mean, it's so crazy. I don't know how you would explain giving all this money to Ukraine and the Black people in Ukraine not even being recognized, as opposed to we giving all of this money to Israel when we're saying protect the innocent and the poor, and all of this stuff is happening to the people in Palestine who aren't Hamas. And Netanyahu and anybody who supports him is in the position or the description of cognitive dissonance. They are out of touch. So what I'm saying to you, I guess in a nutshell, would be, how come you are talking about us as opposed to the perpetrator?
Okay, just that one question, and then we're going to the presentation. Dr. O.
Brought up the context. As I said earlier, Dr. Martin Luther King said that Black people are living in domestic colonies. It was Dr. Martin Luther King who went to Ghana in 1958 to see Ghana become an independent state. Without understanding the world, the history of the world, and the players in world history, will not solve the problem. So the problem isn't the gun violence. The problem, in fact, is domestic colonialism. That is the perpetrator. Capitalism, imperialism, colonialism. Those are the ways in which certain people have dominated other people. And because we have experienced life in the way that we have internalized those values, and we've internalized those negative consequences, which means if there's a crime, that means there's a criminal. If there's a criminal, there must be a victim. If there's a victim, there must be a hurt. So the question is, what is the hurt? What is the harm? And what are we going to do? What are we going to do about the harm that we are experiencing? So we're not exonerating the bad and very negative behaviors that we exhibit amongst ourselves because we've internalized the oppressor. That's called internalized oppression. We have to solve that ourselves. No one's going to solve gun problems in our community except us. Now, international is called the peace dividend. When there are warring factions, there must be some type of arrangement, a proposal that people feel comfortable with, such that they can put down the guns and actually be able to have a last bullet. So I'm agreeing with you. In social work, we talk about understanding human behavior in the social environment, but I make sure I talk about the political environment, the economic environment, the cultural environment, and indeed the historical environment. So when we bring in the historical environment, then we're going to talk about slavery, then we're going to talk about genocide, and then we're going to talk about the right of repair, which is called reparations. So I don't think we have any disagreements at all. I think maybe things wasn't said in a particular fashion or form, but I don't think there's any disagreement.
Well, what do you
Let's
think?
go to the presentation. Dr. Eric, we've got to go to the presentation now, because Dr. O, and once that happens, we're going to learn a whole lot. Okay, engineer, put the presentation on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
okay, and Dr. O, you direct them on when to flip the script, okay?
Okay. So this talk is a talk about historical trauma and how it can be healed through what is called psychodrama, which is a certain kind of action-oriented therapy that does better in terms of dealing with trauma. And COBRA is the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And we put out a report in 2001 saying the harm is to our genes. And it's not the gene in terms of how the gene gets expressed. So I'm going to introduce some vocabulary that some of you may be hearing for the first time. Next slide. So if we look at the context, now we was here, Black people was here, they was called Indians. We was here, who knows how many hundreds of thousands of years ago. But I'm just going to look at the period between 1619 and 2000 as this chart shows us. So from 1619, if we use as a reference point to 1885, right, we were in chattel slavery. And that means your humanity was taken away from you. It's something that's never happened in all the history of the world. Chattel slavery has never happened before, like that which we experience right now. So after 1865, up until 1954, right, they look at 1954 in terms of the Board of Education decision, which was a terrible thing that happened to us. We lost everything, all the different independent institutions that we had, all that was taken away. So now the question is, what do we do? So this period is called the Ma'afa, and I'm going to talk about that. So this Navarro says disease is a social and political category imposed on the people within enormously repressive social and economic capitalist system. We have to understand all this has been created in such a fashion that for the results of subordination and for expectation. Next slide. Sebhiwe Malinka, born here in the United States, repatriated to he did the research and found out what ancestor actually was captured from Africa and brought here to the United States. He repatriated. Now he lives in Guinea-Bissau. He says the United States is guilty of state-sanctioned ethnocide, which is another form of genocide. He says, referring to the deliberate and systematic destruction of our culture. We are the living victims of it. And the first time in history, we can now use DNA testing to show what that harm has been. Next slide. The Ma'afa is a key Swahili word that means great tragedy. So if we look from 1619 to 2019, all 20 generations have been in this state of peril. Next slide. DNA activation for epigenetics. Epigenetics is a new science that has showed us scientifically what we knew all along, and that is when Europeans were hanging us, when they were castrating us, when they were raping us, they knew what they were doing for the purpose of terror and fear and subordination. Next slide. Next slide, please. So what is epigenetics? It's a science that says it's not a question of nature or nurture. We've had that argument for so many years now, but now it says no. It's both of those things. They work together, and it's been found that a child's brain development is offset when they're experiencing trauma, and it's been shown that that trauma can be passed down from one generation to the next in the gene structure of the mother to the child. So the child is born into an environment where they don't think the world is safe. And if you don't think the world is safe, the way the brain works is that you will actually work out of your amygdala rather than the frontal lobes in terms of your thinking, your rationality. So we know that living in oppression, all of our brain development has been altered. The genes have been altered in terms of how, not the genes, but actually how it gets expressed. So now we know there's a science to substantiate what we've known all along, that the terror that was superimposed upon us was for the purpose of fear. And that's what we're living out of, fear. Next slide. My dear friend, Dr. Maria Yellowhorse Braveheart said that it's historical is the collective and emotional psychological injury both over the lifespan and across generations, resulting from a chasmatic history of genocide. And as a substance abuse, as a social worker dealing in behavioral health, we were always taught that your problem is substance abuse, and once you solve your substance abuse problem, your life will be right. She says, no, it's not that at all. Substance abuse in our communities, in fact, is the effect of genocide and the effect of slavery. So her teachings to me showed me that what's the bigger picture, not the small picture, but what's the bigger picture. So because the legacy of genocide will create unsettled trauma and increased child abuse and domestic violence. All the things we experience is because of this trauma that comes out of our captivity and comes out of our oppression. Next slide. So Maria says that 3 hypotheses: education increases self-awareness, sharing effects provides release, and grief resolution through collective mourning and healing will create positive results. These are the things we have to create. We have to create healing circles in our community. Next slide. Another person who's prominent in this field of historical trauma is Dr. Joy DeGruy. She wrote a book, her dissertation, and also her book is Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing, that was revised in 2017, which addresses the residual effects of trauma on the African descendants in the Americas. So those are my teachers, good friends and teachers who really introduced me to this subject of historical trauma. Next slide. This is a snapshot of just giving you a lens through which, and you can see that it's broken down in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. So most of our people exist. We exist on all these things simultaneously, but we're not aware of it because we haven't been taught. The oppressor is not going to teach you how he's oppressed you and the consequences of that oppression. So we have to figure that out for ourselves. So what this chart shows us, theoretically, that on the social level, that's, we're on the earth. We walk around, we talk to people, we have all our interactions, so forth and so on. But underneath that is being driven by what is called induced survival culture. Much of the things we do today comes out of slavery that hasn't been altered. I'll give you an example. Some of our families seriously harm and hurt our children. They think they are punishing them they think they're disciplining them, but what's really happening is that they're hurting them. But where did that come from? It comes from the fact that in slavery, you had to discipline that child on at the spot, at the very moment. Otherwise, the child could be taken away, you could be taken away, your husband could be murdered, all kinds of things could happen. So we had to grab that child at the minute and smack him, her, let them know that you can't say that, you can't do that. And if you have children and the children are raised the way that the parents taught them and so forth and so on, we still have this in our community today. So we have to understand historical trauma and how it's actually still present in the way in which we treat each other. Underneath that is cultural pain, right? The pain that comes out of living in oppression. Now, that's connected to the effect of historical trauma. And then underneath that is a cause. You might see some words that you're not used to seeing. One word is called Ma'at. It's a word from Kemet. The place is not called Egypt. The real name is Kemet. And Ma'at is truth. And we say that we had truth as a people. We had beautiful societies, civilizations as well, but it was interrupted through the Ma'afa, the great tragedy. And now we are a people in the process of Sankofa, of remembering ourselves, reclaiming ourselves, so that what we can return to Ma'at, to truth. But we're still in the Ma'afa. Much of the things we're still dealing with is in the Ma'afa. So you have the causal level, you have the effect level, you have the cultural pain level, you have the adaptation level, and then you have the social reality. When we start to see these things and begin to remedy them, we'll begin to create the structures that would actually give us a better sense of ourselves, identity and purpose and direction. Next slide. So what are we after? We're talking about well-being, and well-being can be looked upon as being a positive outcome that is meaningful for people and for the many sectors of society. So it's not just one group that does well. And really, the truth of the matter, nobody is doing well in America because we're living in this oppressive state. And white people think that they have all the benefits, but they haven't calculated the loss. They've lost their souls, they've lost their humanity. So they have been also victims of the system that they've created. Capitalism and imperialism. Next slide. So the problem, we talked about the Ma'afa being the problem, the great tragedy, and we're saying the solution is understanding what historical trauma is, understanding epigenetics, and then putting together a way of living that can start to reverse these things. We have to be honest, people. What do we put in our mouths every day? What do we put into our brain every day? The diet that you eat will be the results that you will experience. And the diets that we have now are diets that's killing us. We can look at heart disease. We can look at obesity. We can look at liver failure. We can look at kidney failure. We have to become the ones to reclaim our own health, mental, spiritual, social, and otherwise. Next slide. So in the report, I just kind of pulled out two of the solution areas. The sixth session discusses factors that can mitigate the effects of historical and personal trauma and promote strength and resilience. We need to know these things. That's what we have to become. That has to become a daily, weekly, monthly regime that we take on. And the seventh is the policies and practices and research recommendations that we have to use to reverse racism. And people say the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond has a workshop called Undoing Racism. And they say the same way in which race was created as a social construction, it can also be deconstructed. But this is the will of the people. This is the work of the people. This is the work that we have to do. So those are just two solutions that came out of that report, the harms to our genes. Next slide. So if we look at the harm report as being a centerpiece in terms of what we have to study that was created by NCOBRA, the circle on the left, how then does that get translated into general public? There are over about 200 counties, and I think maybe one state where racism has been declared a crime has been declared a public health crisis. This is the work. It's being able to identify the problem and then move towards a solution. And COBRA says there are at least 5 areas in which we've been harmed. And it's more than 5, but we just use these first 5. People hidden nationhood. A people have to see themselves as a people, as a nation, before they can actually think and move as a nation. Education, of course, we've been harmed in education, how we've been, and how our historically Black universities, the colleges have been underfunded, and there have been lawsuits have been won in the last 5 years, like Morgan, where they was defrauded out of so much money. Now the state is paying them back, right? We have to do this research to understand the level of the harm, and certainly our health. Our health is our negative health is the consequences of the situations we found ourselves in, and certainly wealth and poverty is a big area. And the last area is criminal punishment, right? We need to understand these things and how these systems are working so we can start to find solutions for ourselves. Epigenetics, transgenerational inheritance. We've inherited these things, but now we have to cut it off and know that we're not going to continue the traditions that harm us, the things that's within our own ability to do. So it's not giving up the rights and the responsibilities that we have. We have to accept both. What are the rights being a Black person in America, and what are the responsibilities? The responsibilities that we must heal ourselves and we must liberate ourselves. Next slide. Gun violence is just one example. I talked about that earlier. Conditions promote gun violence. Easy access to guns is going to promote gun violence. Income inequality, all of these things, concentrated poverty, all these things are working together. And again, I remind you, it was Dr. Martin Luther King said that we're living in a domestic colony. So therefore, if we are, how then do we participate in the process of decolonization? The first place that we have to decolonize is our mind. What do we think about ourselves? The lie that we've been told about ourselves. So it's not self-hatred that's happening, it's induced self-hatred. There's a difference. Self-hatred is like a person just wakes up and says, I hate myself and da-da-da-da-da. No, it comes from some place. It's called ideology. Where does the disease start from? It started from the oppressor, and then it got internalized. Next slide. True to Life is a group I work with in Staten Island. They're going through a tremendous loss right now. This is a gun prevention group out of Staten Island that's part of New York City's Cure Violence Strong Messengers program to stem gun violence. They are my inspiration. Next slide. Up on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3 over is a young man, Jalen, 28. He just died last week, 28 years old. 28. They went to his apartment and found him unconscious and unresponsive. And all these people, and more people than what's seen in the picture, they are going through a tremendous level of grief and dismay. But we have to help each other because we are each other's medicine. But I wanted to use gun violence as an example of how colonialism is domestic colonialism, how it's affecting us. Next slide. So the Wahimi Misu Healing Well psychodrama method is that which I created with my doctorate, and it starts with helping us be in a position of neutrality, right? We have what is called the observing ego or the compassionate witness. I like to use the terminology internal ancestor, and it's a way of being in a place of no shame, no blame, no judgment. And whatever conversations we can have from that place, it's going to give us the greatest level of productivity. So Wahimi Misu is a Kemet word that means order. It means to return to order. It means rebirth. Rebirthing in what is called Ma'at. Ma'at is order, balance, and harmony, reciprocity, justice, and truth. So as we start to embrace these principles, we'll start to improve our relations with our family members and with the community. So what do we want to do? We want to augment our personal strengths, augment our interpersonal strengths, and augment our communal strengths. And when we do that, we'll see the changes that we need to be well. Next slide. I use what is called Ndinkwa symbols in my work because the symbols, who knows how many thousands of years of history that's contained with them. But you can look at the symbols and you can see that there's a whole language just by the symbol, right? So we are now wanting to wear Nike and all these other European companies and sport those symbols as a way of our self-esteem. And we have given up the symbols that we've created ourselves. And when I introduce these symbols, people find a way to feel a certain amount of relief, and they do interpretation. So even though each symbol has a word and has a meaning from Ghana, I let them choose the symbol and they put their own meaning in the symbol, and it helps them to remember that they do have the right and the ability to participate in what is called self-determination. Next slide. So just to give you a little background, to the left, bottom left is Joshua Lee, who was my supervisor training as I learned psychodrama. To the right, you see Kate Hudgens, who created the model, which is called the therapeutic spiral method. And up to the left, you see Marino, J.L. Marino, who created psychodrama. So his work is called classical psychodrama. The work that Kate does is called therapeutic spiral method. And it's a phenomenal way of bringing people together and participating in the healing process. Of course, I'm not going to go into full detail, but there's trainings that we provide so people can understand what it is. Next slide. So briefly, we're talking about how do we heal from the effects of the Ma'afa and still going through the Ma'afa. Well, the healing method that we use, you can see these stick figures on the left. All those stick figures represent what is called prescriptive roles, because Marino said that as human beings, we take on these different roles, and that's how we understand who we are and what we do. So those are called prescriptive roles, which is like giving people the strength to have a discussion on whatever matter it is. In the middle, you see a triangle, which is looking at the three main things that happen when people go through periods of trauma. That is, we internalize the perpetrator, we internalize the victim, and we also internalize something which is called abandoning authority. How many times have you been told where a girl has told her mother or told her family that the mother's boyfriend raped her, and then the girl is not believed? How many times have you seen a kid come home from school and saying, I didn't do anything wrong, but just because the teacher had more authority, they listen to the authority of the teacher rather than to the boy? So so these things get internalized, and then the question about liberation is how do we recognize them, and how do we go to the third step, which is called transformation. So I'm just giving you an overview of how this particular therapy works. Next slide. So the Wahimi Misu process is dealing with the prescriptive, the strengthening, grounding, looking at life problems, and then going into transformation. And as we do that, we begin to create what is called facility. We begin to understand our own capacity, and then we begin to transform ourselves, our own lives, and the lives of people around us. Next slide. So it's a 15-week module. The first week 1 to 5 is healing the mind world. What are we thinking about ourselves? The second level is interpersonal, the next 5 weeks, and then the last 5 weeks is dealing with the village, right? Sacred Hoop is a Native American way of saying that everything lives in balance, everything lives in order. It's really it's the counter to Ma'at. It's really saying the same thing. We have to know that the work we're doing is mending our sacred hoop as a people on a personal level, a family level, and a community level, and a national level. So we say we need a healer and a healing well in every home, because having a healer is good, but how is the healer going to get it replenished? We have to have a healing well. So it's having a healer and a healing well in every home. And this can be done. This is we don't have to wait on anybody to make this happen. This can happen by our own volition. Next slide. Cure violence is a public health approach to gun violence, where they say that the problem of gun violence is because there's a community disease. The disease is America, and they say that the consequence of gun violence is retaliatory gun violence. Now, yes, this is true, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. It just gives you a piece of it, and it's almost like blaming the victim. Well, you have a disease, and that's why you have the problem. Well, where did disease come from? And I'm going to go to that. Next slide. The real determinant of the problem is domestic colonialism. We don't control our resources. We don't control our politics. We don't control our education. We don't control. What do we control? We not only do we not control anything in our neighborhoods, we certainly don't control anything for someone else in their neighborhoods. So when Black people say that, I don't want to, we sometimes say, I don't want to be a racism in reverse. You can't be a racism in reverse. Only way that you can be a racism in reverse is that you have control. Racism means you have racial prejudice plus institutional power. We can be a bigot. We can say things about people, but am I affecting their life in any meaningful way? No. The real problem is domestic colonialism. But looking at community gun violence, we still have to solve the question of retaliatory gun violence. Why? Because anywhere from 75 to 85% of the gun violence that's taking place is retaliatory. We have to interrupt that cycle. And the way that we're going to do that is by helping the victims see that there's another way to deal with their rage rather than shooting someone else in retaliation. Next slide. I've been doing this work ever since 2015, actually, with True Violence. I had showed True to Life out of Staten Island. So this isn't just a lecture. This is just a summary of the work that I've been doing for the last, 8-9 years. Part of using this method of psychodrama is art, right? Because art helps us to balance the left and right side hemispheres of our brain. And isn't it something that all the art programs are being taken out of the schools? Gym is taken out of the schools. When you take all these things away, which are coping mechanisms, what you're left with is the disappointment. You're left with depression. You're left with rage, and that's what we're seeing in our communities right now. We're seeing the lack of resources and the overabundance of challenges. Without those resources, there is no balance. So we have to demand those balances. This is why reparations is an imperative. People who've been harmed and don't stand up for themselves will be continually harmed. The only way this is going to stop is that we have to declare that it's going to stop, and we have to fight for it ourselves. No one is going to do it for ourselves. We have to do this for ourselves. And I think I'm at the end of the presentation. You've seen the short video on the Last Bullet Flyer. That's the campaign that we engaged in, and we are thanking you for this time and for this moment. Thank you very much, Elder Montgomery. Thank you.
Thank you. No, this needs to go worldwide. Matter of fact, a copy of this should be sent out to DOE, Department of Education, not only in New York, but we should be sending this to Florida, to Faith in Florida, because these are the types of training that we need in order to train us to come out of where we are. Now, I got a question. I see that Bishop Johnson has joined us, but I got a question. Epigenetics, am I pronouncing that word right? Epigenetics.
Epigenetics means above the gene, above the gene, epigenetics. So it's not just what happens to the gene, but it's the environment in which we live in that also can have the deleterious effect on what the gene actually expresses, what things are turned on, what things are turned off, and to what extent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, understanding also this other word, cumulative trauma. Cumulative trauma. Trauma that's repeated over and over again, that even though we don't acknowledge it, such as in our neighborhoods, if a person gets shot, that's cumulative trauma. And this thing happens over and over again that we don't even know is traumatizing us and pushing us to another place of not being productive. I like what you said when you spoke about post-traumatic slavery syndrome, because we always talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, but we never talk about post-traumatic slavery disorder, which affects us. Okay, Dr. O, you want to comment?
Yes, I'll just make a little bit of an edit. Joy DeGruy speaks to this point that it's not a disorder, because a disorder means that some kind of way it can be put into the DSM-5, and then you can get medication. So she says, no, it's bigger than that. It's a sociological problem, right? That's why she's saying syndrome rather than disorder. And it's saying, okay, what happens when you keep a people under these harsh conditions for 400 years? What happens to the body? What happens to the mind? So what Dr. DeGru is saying is that there's been we've had resistance and resilience, but we didn't come out of this thing unscathed, right? What happens is when the body is put upon with those levels of stress, it's called weathering. Cortisol gets excreted over and over and over again, and after a while, it doesn't. It starts to actually have a negative effect on the body, right? Adrenaline is high, or hypersensitive, always looking around. So after a while, we are walking in a state of fear, and when you're walking in a state of fear, what happens is your lower brain state is the thing you're operating from. You're operating out of the amygdala. And in that state, it's fight, it's flight, it's fawn, all these different ways in which you don't have any control of. The body, it just happens. So psychodrama lets us start to peel back the layers and start to see those things. So we have natural defenses. So there's a course that we teach that's called making friends with your defenses. So rather than your defense sitting in the driver's seat, we put the defense into the passenger seat, and then we put the defense in the back seat, right? So we never can get rid of our defenses, but we can reshape them in such a way that they're not controlling us. How many kids just say that I'm not driving, I'm not carrying a gun because I want to shoot somebody, I'm trying to protect myself. We're living in a state of fear, and that's what colonialism wants you to do. It wants the people to live in a state of fear because they're not in their frontal lobes. They're not thinking things through. This is why it's so important, why we use education as one of the major parts of the harm and the remedy. We have to re-educate ourselves through the world in which we live and the world
I
that
want
we
to bring
live
Dr.
in.
Bishop Johnson in, Bishop, and then I'm gonna bring you in, Dr. O. Bishop Johnson, come on into the conversation.
Hey Valerie, good morning, guys. It's certainly good to hear from you. My internet was down for about 20-30 minutes, so that's why I got on late. I do agree fundamentally with pretty much everything I'm hearing. Good information, but as I said the last time we were on, I wanted to get to know Dr. Orr. How do I pronounce your name again?
Onaje, you can call me Dr. O.
Dr. O, okay.
Dr. O.
Yeah, I wanted to get to know fundamentally, where your foundation is in terms of the spiritual side, and I'll say this to be clear. What you're talking about, I address every single bit of it in this book, but my cure is coming solely from the spiritual vantage point. The lion's share of all Black people in America are in Christian churches. And it is the Christian church that has bastardized the gospel, and they have given to us a colonial white supremacy gospel. And even though we're in churches, we're not being discipleship in the truth of what we should be doing for ourselves. And that's why we are stuck here. And so I believe that the gospel that Christ taught to the world is the remedy for everything on this planet. And so I believe that until Black people understand fundamentally who we really are, because white people in Europe did not become civilized until the last 500 years, and they got it from us. And when we were captured as slaves, and our heritage stolen from us and brought us over here and made chattel slavery out of us, we lost who we were. But the vast majority of the people who came to this continent on their backs on slave ships were Israelites. Now you may have heard of the Hebrew Israelites. They're all over the place. They got a lot of stuff twisted, but the one thing they are 100% true on, that Bible is our history that white folks stole from us. And because we are in these Christian churches, the Christian churches are getting their education from white supremacy Christian theological institutions, and that's why we don't know who we are. And we need to get all these other healing methods. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that. But fundamentally, as a gospel preacher, second generation of gospel preacher, I believe that the Bible is what we need, and the fact that we don't understand it, even though we got it in our bookshelves, we carried it in our churches, we got it on our phones, we still don't know fundamentally what's in it. And what I'm teaching you in this book is how to get there. So,
Dr. Johnson, I want to let Dr. O answer this, but before he answers it, I want to tell you something. I agree with you that a lot of us folks is in church. But what happened to the us folks that's not in church? They've got to be reached. Period. See, it's a lot to do with the outside. And what happens? Yes, you're right. But our mindset must be adjusted and trained. And we must think another way. Trauma must be dealt with. And we must first identify the trauma, because I would not know about accumulative trauma that every time a police officer pulls up behind me, I start shaking. Now I got my driver's license, I got my insurance, my car's inspected, the lights are working, everything is good. But if that siren comes on, I start shaking, because guess what? That's a cumulative trauma, because I've seen this taking place so many times that it's in me. Now I'm church.
yes,
I'm church, but it's in me.
And I agree with you 100%. I'm not disagreeing. I think we need to go through all of those methods, but at the end of the day, we still got to have a firm foundation to get on. If we say we are Christians and we believe the Bible, we want to go to heaven when we die. We don't want to jump out of the frying pan into the kettle. We want to have our spiritual foundation in order. And that's why I say everything leads me back to the scriptures, back to the gospel. And until
Okay, we have a question. How can we know all of this and still be so hard and impatient with each other? Please address this question. Thanks. That's from one of our listeners. I normally don't come in with it, but she keeps putting this question up. How can we know all of this and be so hard on each other? I'm going to you, Dr. O.
Earlier, I had given reference to the internal trauma triangle, where we've internalized the perpetrator, we've internalized the victim, and we also have internalized the abandoning authority. I've added another fourth component that's called the passive agent provocateur. And what I mean by that is that the only way that slavery could have continued, they had to have co-conspirators amongst us who worked in the fashion of overseer, right? Some of the things, so when we started to do those things to each other, we've never stopped. And we've never stopped. And it's easy, therefore, to, once something is started, for it to continue without it being confronted. So the reason we continue to do these things to each other is because we haven't understood the Martha in its fullness, nor have we taken the steps to deal with our own insecurities and the own aggressions that we do to one another. So they say healing is an inside job. We as a people, we've never gotten the therapy. The country has never acknowledged the harm or slavery or genocide. So the reason we continue to do those things is because the internal trauma triangle is still operating inside of us. And that can only be done through collective healing.
Dr. O, I want to come in, but I'm going to bring Dr. Gourdet in. But I do want to say this. We see it going on in Haiti right now. We see what's going on in Haiti with black on black crime and trauma right now. Dr. Eric, come in. Dr. Eric, come in. We can't hear you.
While
okay,
is he in? I was going to make a comment until he gets in.
Okay. Dr. Eric, are you coming in now? Oh, he said he can't come in. He can't have sound. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Bishop.
I wanted to say, and the reason why I mentioned discipleship, because we've got the same foolishness going on in these churches. The hatred. We go to church And we put on this huge facade for about an hour and jump and dance, and all that animosity and foolishness is still in us when we leave the churches because we don't understand fundamental biblical discipleship. And that's across the board. It ain't just black people. We got the bulk of it, but it's white folks too. We have taken that Bible and we have misused it. We have allowed the people who claim to be the authority in the Bible to teach us to it when many of them don't even believe it. So the love of Christ and the love of God, pure love, is the only thing that's going to get that mess out of us and teach us how to really start loving each other. I say about churches all the time, you can go to any church, pick any city in America, and almost every city block you got a church. And these pastors, for the most part, it's not every single one of them, but the vast majority of them, they wouldn't even get together for the good of their own community. They a lot of them, if they get a few members, they start to act like Hollywood stars, pimping the folk, taking all this money out of these churches, and got no relationship in these community among themselves with all these different brands, all these different denominational titles. None of it is in the Bible. All of it came from white supremacy, and 300 years ago or more, we couldn't even have our own churches because of this, the bastardization of the gospel. And that's where the rubber meets the road. We've got to get back to the fundamental truth of what Christ brought to the world, because that's our legacy. That's not white people history. That's our legacy. So we can't allow.
Now, I'm agreeing with that, Bishop Johnson. But I guess what we also need to understand is that the majority of young people and young adults are not in our churches. And that's the generation, because we got generation after generation after generation of trauma. It's passing down. So we've got to put this information in the school systems so that our younger generation, so we can start cutting and breaking up, so we can do like this, like we can blow time out. We've got a way to address this. Time out. The church is addressing it. The school system is addressing it. The community is addressing it. We've got to take a all on deck effort. Time out and do a reset. Okay, Dr. Eric, come in, Dr. Eric.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Wonderful. Hey, Dr. O, I am wholeheartedly and interested in working with you or joining you or taking your course, whatever it has to take. I'm coming from the spirituality of Muid as well. This is what I live by. And I see that there are a lot of things or a lot of beliefs that we have to incorporate that we have no idea about. I went to Egypt 2 times, and I went down the Nile for 4 days and then baptized myself in this thing. So the religion, as the Reverend is talking about, is fine. But there are other things that we need to do, and maybe we have to have our actual Muid Bible and maybe incorporate some of the things that the European American Bible and the white Jesus is talking about. But we definitely need our own education. And somehow we need to educate these white people or have them to educate themselves, because they aren't really white. They're albinos. They're albino mutants. And they have they're, I believe, angry because of that. But later for that, as you were saying, Dr. O, I think we need to focus on ourselves, definitely. And I'm willing to do that. I'm a licensed clinical social worker as well. So you are my brother.
Oh my goodness. I put my number in the chat, Dr.
Eric.
Eric, Dr. Eric, hold it for a minute. Dr. Eric, if you can't get the number out the chat, I will send it to you. I don't know what'll happen if you two get together, but only. All right. Okay, Bishop Johnson, go ahead.
I do again want to work collaboratively with you guys and anybody who's trying to mitigate the traumas of Black people for the most part, because we're at the bottom of the social strata. However, if I'm going to walk with individuals, I'd like to know fundamentally where they're coming from. So I wanted to ask you guys, what's your take on the gospel, on the Bible, in terms of where that stands in our culture? Do you believe that there's a alternative source? There's something else that we're supposed to be doing outside of that? And so just give me your clarity on, as I said, I'm a second generation Pentecostal preacher. I believe that this Bible is it. I think that everything else we got may be a substitute to that, but I believe the Bible is it. So and that's not going to take away from what you believe, because everybody have the right to believe what they believe. I just want to know who I'm working with, so I can know how to communicate as we move forward.
Okay, Dr. O. Dr. O.
Thank you. Before I answer the question, I want to say that this is really where the answer lies. The answer lies in pluralism. The Black community is not monotheist, not
Monolithic.
we all are the same. Monolithic. We're not monolithic.
Yes.
So until we as a people recognize that and give everyone the right for their own spiritual or religious path and work together, until we find that key, we'll never come to a solution. I am a Muslim.
Okay.
I believe in the Creator, by the name I call is Allah. And I believe that Jesus was a prophet. That's how I was taught through the Quran. But it says that all of us, in fact, could have a way to the Creator for those who do righteous. So I also worked with Abyssinia Baptist Church in New York City for the last, 30 years or so through their Rights of Pastors program. They have what is called the Blue Nile Rights of Pastors program, where they invite the whole community. You don't have to be a Christian.
Yeah. But here's the beauty of what you're saying, and I'm assuming you believe this as well. In Genesis chapter 12, God told Abraham to leave his father, go to where I'm going to send you, and I'm going to make you a blessing to all the families of the earth. And Muslims trace their legacy back to Abraham, just like Christians trace their legacy back to Abraham. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we're on the same foundation in terms of where this truth
That's right. That's right. That's right. And also, we've got to learn that we've got to collectively come together with this, because, and the bottom line is, we come from the same place.
Yes.
We all come from the same place. So we got to collectively come together, because whether we know it or not, our skin is the same color.
Yeah. And that's the problem with white folk with us, is our skin. That's the issue right here. That's why we have so much problem, is our skin. And their fight is to try to keep from being bleached out of their skin. So that's why they have so much antagonism against us, because our genetics is dominant over theirs.
That's why WarCry is here. WarCry is connecting the pieces together to make a whole puzzle so we can solve the problem. That's what we need. We need ways to solve the problem. And for years, we've been talking about the problem, generation after generation after generation. And now look where we are. We're in a generation now that don't even have an identity, that has even questioned the essence of what they're born as.
We're not,
because the church, the genetics, because we've sit back and said, well, I can't work with you, I can't work with you, I can't work with you, and I can't work with you. And the enemy
you call that plantation politics.
Plantation politics, really, and the enemy, because let me tell you something, the enemy don't care who you are. It looks at the color and it puts a bullet on your head. Yes. Okay, Dr. O, not Dr. O, Dr. Eric, come in.
No, I do have to leave, because I go to the prison on Mondays, so I do have to leave. Sorry, I can't stay any longer. God bless all of you.
I'm sorry. I will be in touch with you.
We're going to get in contact with you. This is WarCry, another great show. Guess what? All those who put in the text for me to give them Dr. O's number, I will. We are finding a solution to the problem, whether you like it or not. We're going to get the answer, and our kids are going to stop dying. This is WarCry. Join us next week. Thank you, guys, for a great show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is WarCry.
This is WarCry. WarCry for our children, where the street meets the sanctuary and purpose meets power. Join me, Elder M, intercessor, street evangelist, pro warrior, advocator for justice. We stand in the gap in the streets, in the courtyards, in the schoolyards, in the church, and on the block. This ain't just prayer. It's intercession. It's advocacy. We deal with real problems. Criminal justice, social justice, gun violence, social media, catfishing, human trafficking, mental illness, education disparities. We deal with it all here on WarCry. Our community has a voice. It's called WarCry. Each week, we link arms with community leaders, educators, pastors, parents calling out injustice. This is WarCry. This is not just a podcast. It's more than a moment. This is a movement. Join us. Let's give a voice to the problem and be the solution. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. WarCry. We're going to speak out for our children. Let freedom ring? No. There cannot be freedom until there's justice. WarCry, join us Mondays, 11 a.m. I'm just about to lose my mind. This is WarCry. Oh, they're trying to turn time back. But let us get out and give a voice to the problem. This is WarCry. Join us, be with us, or be gone. Don't push us. This is WarCry. Trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. We're not going under.